Hey there, my name is Garrett McQueen. I am a young black classical bassoonist turned public radio host.
And I'm Scott Blankenship. I am a middle-aged, white, former thespian turned radio host.
A thespian, you're coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good for you.
I'm not ashamed.
So I came up through a sort of traditional pipeline. I joined the band when I was in 7th grade. Did that through middle school, high school, majored in music education in college, which eventually turned into bassoon performance. Got a master's in bassoon performance from the University of Southern California. Got in all by myself, by the way, Scott.
No extra cash.
Nobody had to, push an envelope across the table for
Good.
me. After leaving there, I spent 2 seasons with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, 5 seasons with the Knoxville Symphony Orchestra. Played with numerous other symphonies all across the country and around the world. And in 2016, I was invited to fill in a temporary spot on Knoxville's local public radio station. That temporary spot turned into a permanent spot. I hit the ground running, and in a year and a half, I found myself here at American Public Media hosting a national classical music show.
Welcome.
What's your story?
Well, I started out it was in high school that I got into theater. Had a really positive experience. People were saying positive things, so I got it in my head. I'm going to go be an actor. I'm going to voice cartoons. I'm going to be in movies. I'm going to do all these, and
it worked out perfectly, didn't it?
After about 2 semesters in college, I realized I was not good enough to make the kind of living that I wanted to make.
That has to be a difficult realization to face, that you
Especially
are not
early
good
on.
enough.
Yep, and I knew it. But the thing that allowed me to do was to keep that connection to that art as something on the side. And it ended up that I was a co-founder of a theater group in Omaha, Nebraska called Shelterboat Theater.
Shout out to them.
And 25 years of original theater done in Omaha. And that's one of the things that I love about theater is the fact that it is art that is only happening at that one particular point in time.
Right.
So the next night, if you were to come back and see the same show, it would be different because the crowd is different. Maybe the actors feel different. And to a degree, I find that in classical music as well. Like if you go to a concert one night, it will be different the next night, based on...
Usually better that second night.
Hopefully.
No shade.
From the matinee to the evening performance too, there's differences. And so, and I cut my teeth at KVNO in Omaha, Nebraska.
And that was classical radio?
Yeah. And I worked there I did every job there was to do there with the exception of the actual program director. I made it all the way up to assistant PD.
You were sweeping the floors and cleaning the toilets and
Starting
everything,
out, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And
started from the bottom.
Yeah, and clawed my way to where we are here at American Public Media.
And I took your former overnight spot.
Yes. How's that feeling for you? How's that working out?
I'm doing okay, actually, but
we should preface that this is an overnight gig that we're talking about. This is an overnight shift, midnight to 6.
Yeah, midnight to 6 a.m. I do 4 nights a week. Were you ever doing 4 nights a week?
There was a couple times where I had to fill in, and it damn near broke me.
Yeah, well, I'm a little younger than you are, so we'll see what happens in the coming decade. I'll probably get over it too. I don't know, but it's working out for me. But I'm kind of curious to hear about the challenges that you found in that sort of job, challenges that were unexpected, I understand.
The isolation was the biggest thing. You're on a different clock.
As the rest of the world.
Yep. You're working the opposite end of the spectrum from everybody else. And while it's fulfilling on some levels because that overnight crowd is dedicated and...
Yeah, shout out to all the overnight listeners.
Yeah, it's a group that is 100% dedicated to this music, and I think that they are some of the most loyal.
Yeah.
And I've been off of it coming up on a year, and I think that I'm just now getting my sleep schedule back on track and starting to feel a little bit more like I'm
getting yourself together.
A part of normalcy, maybe.
meeting all the ladies on your free evenings now.
Oh yeah, because that's going well.
Well, that is something that I'm very blessed not to have to deal with, the whole dating scene and all that stuff, at least right now. So, being overnight is great for me, for now at least. But I definitely remember, during my onboarding process here at American Public Media, you're coming around to my desk and saying, "Boy, am I glad to see you." So, you were a big part of like my training and my onboarding and all that. And in that process, we have really great colleagues up here. But in that process, I definitely noticed that you were, not the most tightly wound member of the team. I think I'll say it that way.
That's fair.
And that was encouraging to me because I feel like I'm often on, the fringes of classical music. As someone who's black, I got dreadlocks. I didn't come up through a conservatory, as it were, but, I do have some legit training. Shout out to my teachers, Lacolian Washington and Judith Farmer. But, when I see myself as someone just who's been on the outskirts of this whole thing, it's encouraging for me to meet someone who I see as non-typical in this world of classical music.
Yeah.
Certainly not classical radio. I mean, do you consider yourself a typical part of what all of this is?
Well, from the outside looking in, sure.
Okay.
I fit everything by looks, middle-aged, white guy, classical music. That A plus B does equal C in that instance. But there's a lot going on in the background that people don't know about. I ride a motorcycle. I make my own beer, things like that.
Some pretty good beer, I'll add.
Oh, thanks. But I guarantee you there's very few people who are rolling up to their classical music shift on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I think is kind of missing on the landscape right now, is a chance for people in this music to tell their stories. Apart from announcing here's some Haydn, here's a Brahms piece. I think that there's more conversation to be had, better conversation to be had within this world of classical music.
Let's get kind of specific. What is a specific conversation that you think is missing from the general zeitgeist of classical music culture, whether that's the concert hall, the radio, whatever?
Public broadcasting across the board has had an issue with diversity for years.
And what does that mean? What does that word diversity mean to you?
Well, if you want to look at it at its base, it means a healthy mixture of men and women and people of color. Mm-hmm. And I think that by proxy, the LGBTQ community is in there as well.
Sure.
When most of the voices that you are hearing on the air are from white people. And I think it's been in the last 10 or 15 years that I've noticed that the mix of men to women is starting to improve. But we're still lacking on people of color and people from the LGBTQ community.
And how does that make you feel as, the archetypal statistic that everyone is throwing knives at these days? The older, straight, white man.
Right.
Do you feel threatened by all this progress through all of these holes that you have identified in public broadcast?
Well, when we were talking off mic, I used the word relevance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and part of it is me looking ahead and trying to make sure that I have a career in this business because I love public broadcasting. I came up on public broadcasting, and I want to see this music make it and be there for generations in the future. And if we're being smart, we have to look at the fact that our communities are not all white men with a few white women in there.
Mm-hmm.
And these stories from these people that are on the fringes need to be heard to let us know that it's a human thing that is happening to create this music, to create this art. It's well beyond the Joshua Bells and Awadajan Pratts and all that. There's far more people who are struggling to make this music than are killing it and, making millions of dollars.
And good for you for, becoming friends with the new cool black guy on staff to explore these conversations.
I would have done that even no matter what you were black or not, because I know what it's like
To be the new guy.
to be the new guy and to be in that position where you don't get a lot of people reaching out to you.
Right.
So that was my goals. Number one, I wanted to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I have been wanting to do something that spotlights all of the different people involved in this art and haven't really found anybody that's on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to find that connection with you.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we talk about really early on in this podcast is the fact that if you see somebody on a stage doing something that you like and they look like you, it's easier for you to become interested or to feel like it's for you too.
Yeah. Something I kind of have always struggled with in the world of classical music when we're talking about diversity is the idea that diversity is so much thicker than deeper than the skin. It's more than just skin deep, because when you look up on a classical music stage or you turn on the radio and you hear a black person like me talking about this classical music, what's significant about my race is that I have shared experiences with other people that look like me or who look similar to me, and things that make us very different. The main thing being my career path, which is classical music. So all of that to say, and I have certain people in mind that I will not call out by name, but in the world of classical music in corporate America, and all of these traditionally white institutions, black people over the ages have gotten real good at sort of fixing ourselves and making sure that we're behaving for all the white folks so that no one is being uncomfortable. And that's just something that Goddess didn't put in my recipe when I was born. I have often been called disrespectful or condescending or whatever, just because I want to live my experience as a black person the way I want to live it along all of its intersections. So I'm also gay, along with being a classical musician. I'm from the South, and for a long time, having a sort of Southern affect to your voice wasn't seen as professional, certainly not for public radio, Mm-hmm. So there are all these norms that I refuse to accept while traversing classical music. And, for me, for this podcast, I wanted to make sure that we were hearing from some of those people. There are folks that you will see on that classical music stage who are leaving and going to, their part-time job as a bartender or a box thrower. There are people, there are people sitting in the audience who got the tickets for free and have never been to an orchestra concert, they don't know why classical music matters at all. It's important to hear from them. There's music students coming up. And the further we get, into time, the more intersections that you'll see in these conservatories, and they have perspectives that they're putting out there, and that need a platform, and that's what I wanted to do with this podcast. Really create something that is public media's response to the world, and a project that I myself feel is relevant to me and my experiences, not only as a classical musician and as someone who popped up into the world of classical radio, but someone who is black and is gay and is younger than you anyway, and just bringing all that together so that my demographic and folks younger than me, folks coming up, have a reason to pay attention to what's going on in public radio. Now, as you're fully aware of, Scott, starting projects with large organizations along with you along the way, offers its own set of challenges.
It does.
We started talking about this late December, early January, and we're officially into May now, and from what the logo looks like to the publishing rights to the website, there's so many hoops to jump through, so much red tape, and I think my willingness to go along with that, speaks to how much I really believe in this project. Because a long time ago, I could have just pulled all the plugs and done this on my own,
Sure.
and it would have been just fine. But I understand the advantage and the privilege I have as a member of the team at American Public Media. And the thought I keep going back to is how much I would be taking advantage of my very rare spot here, especially for who I am, if I didn't use all the resources, at my disposal. So there have definitely been lots and lots and lots of frustrating points on this road, but it just makes it feel even better that we're here finally.
Well, I do understand where you're coming from, but you also realize too that this isn't anything personal, right? That all of these hoops that you're jumping through, people jump through them because that's what it takes to get it going within this organization.
So what are you saying? I need to stop complaining?
No, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just hoping that you're not taking it as a personal affront.
Yeah.
You
Well, it's not
because
that
I understand where you're coming from.
It's not that I've taken it. Well, not that I took it personally, as much as it's hard to have something that is a really great idea, and something that you really believe in, and something that your teammates, your organization believes in too, but needs done on their terms.
Mhm.
It's they're just natural challenges there. They're natural emotions that are going to be there. I'm sure you've worked on projects that you feel like didn't roll out exactly the way you want it, right?
Or died on the vine.
Sure, yeah.
As a result. But the thing is I think that made me look even harder or try to come up with a program that was going to hit it out of the park even more. It was like I wasn't subdued by it. It was like I was lit on fire about it to even do better. And one of the things that one of your guests, Catherine Bradbury, brings up, which I think is really important, is that, and it also dovetails into what you were talking with Marion Dooley about, seeing somebody on stage that looks like you, so that it makes you feel better about being you're a part of it. It's for you. I am not the one to be finding these stories. As a middle-aged white guy, she talks about when you grow up in a system, it's hard to see the flaws in the system.
Yeah.
And so I think that I want to try to find as many people who represent these groups that we're trying to reach to go out and get those stories.
Yeah.
And just to be part of I just want to be a part of the conversation. I don't want to lead it.
You want to be included.
I want to be included because I want to be a part of the change.
And what how I sort of see the way our relationship works as far as this podcast is concerned is your years of experience as far as the editing and the all of the button pushing that I didn't go to school for, and I don't have the 30, 40 years of experience you have at this point.
You need to get out all your fingers and toes to count how old I am.
But and I have that perspective, as we've been talking about, here for the past 20 or so minutes, going through music school, actually being one of the few people to actually make it, and become a member of an orchestra and be able to make a living, all the way in a very short period of time to me being one of the voices of classical music and one of the, advocates and of classical music. So, I think with our powers combined, we can really pull some great things together.
Oh, we're going to be unstoppable.
Should we talk a little bit about, what listeners should expect for each episode.
Well, sure. Start with your philosophy.
Sure. So this is a podcast that explores some of the people and some of the stories from the fringes of classical music. So opening up each opus of this podcast, the little music word we're using there, you'll hear Scott and I just kind of talk about some sort of topic that relates to the interview that I conducted for that episode. So on the next, so we're calling this the Overture. So on the next opus of TRILLOQUY, we mentioned that I talked with Marion Dooley and about his relationship with HBCU culture, the music programs there. That's what we talk about. So, Scott, I'm sure you and I will talk about similar things. What you know about HBCUs, how HBCUs have popped up into popular culture. As a matter of fact, we're missing a screening of Beyonce's Homecoming right now
in the basement of the building.
That is how much I believe in TRILLOQUY. The name of this podcast, True and Real Conversations from the Fringes of Classical Music. We're missing Beyonce for this, I don't know. How did I get there? Oh, talking about the HBCU. See,
Yeah.
That's how much I love Beyonce. Beyonce is important to me. So me and Scott will just, talk about, a concept or something to sort of frame the conversation that I have with the special guest for that episode. There will be, overtures and opuses like these that, don't feature a special guest. You just get to hear us shoot
talk.
it out, shoot the shh about it. Because I don't think we're allowed to curse, right?
And we both come at this from different sets of experiences and different ideas in the way that we present this music. So I think it's going to be, I think each one is going to be eye-opening for people on both sides.
Yeah. Have your eye? So at this point, I've gotten several of my interviews in the can. Going back and editing and listening to these videos, are there any eye-opening moments that you've experienced so far on the path toward TRILLOQUY?
Well, a lot of them happen during our conversations. I think for both of us. You brought up unconscious bias at one point that I think is something that a lot of people like me are dealing with. So I think there's going to be some eye-opening conversations happening in that regard. And going back to your conversation again with Kathleen Bradbury, sometimes we just need to get out of the way and let people tell their story the way they want to tell it.
And that's what, I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But there are still a lot of people in the way. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So a year from now, Scott, when, we're 2, maybe 300 opuses in, not that many, but, when we're down the line.
I'd say close to 200. We probably are on track to do that.
What would you hope a regular listener sort of gets from what we're doing? What do you want? Well, first of all, I guess we should really address who do you see as the target audience for this?
Millennials, people that are
proud millennial here,
right? People that are your age and younger. I want them to be able to feel like this is a space for them. Public media is a place. We preach that all the time, that it's for everybody,
but it's not.
And now it's time
really
to start practicing it.
Right.
And I think that if we start to reach out to different audiences in a way that they're used to communicating, we're going to be a lot more effective rather than saying, oh, tune into, you come over here to public broadcasting and listen to the way we do things and maybe you'll fall in love with it. I think that's flawed logic.
And maybe you've addressed this already, but again, I hate calling you middle age as much as I like ragging on your age.
No, it's what I am though.
Middle age just sounds so old to me.
Yeah, and
I'm a millennial.
That also
can't
means
help it.
If I'm at middle age, that means I'm going to live to like 96, and I was hoping for like a 78.
Well, not every however old you are at this point, 60, 65.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
not everyone is lucky enough to get to that age. So in all of my ragging, there's love, Scott.
I understand that.
What were we talking? Oh, so anyway,
Where were we?
so as a middle age, quote unquote, white man, why is that diversification important to you? Why is it important for the doors of public media to widen a little bit and to include more people and more conversations?
If we don't, they will close forever.
And that means we don't get a paycheck.
Right. No, what I'm saying is that,
I'm gonna get a paycheck no matter what. But.
yeah, we need to reach out to more people. And that means diversification on every level.
In one of the last meetings, I've gone to a lot of meetings at this point, pitching this podcast,
Yeah.
defending this podcast. And one of the points that, that I got to in one of those meetings with our marketing team was, there are connections that can be made. Every conversation, every sort of challenge that is just in the air in 2019 exists in classical music.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about ageism or sexism or racism or the financial challenges of trying to figure out how to be a part of this art form and eat and pay your rent. Everything that exists in the world exists in classical music. Those things have not always had a spotlight, and that's what I want to do here. I just want to make sure that you listening, that you understand the world of classical music is much like your world. You don't have to be a classical musician to understand what I'm trying to think of. Some of the people I've already interviewed. I did get one interview in with another classical radio host, and for her, a part of her challenge was trying to take the safe route, going away from music, and how it led her back to music anyway. We all have had that parent that says, why are you majoring in X, Y, and Z, or why don't you go do A, B, and C to make sure that your future is stable. I remember my mom when they understood I was going to go into classical music, she always wanted me to reconsider being something like a plumber or an electrician, something that everyone will always need. Those are conversations that exist everywhere and in classical music. That's just one example of what this podcast is trying to be, and I feel like I'm rambling at this point.
You do it well. And
I ramble well. Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
I think that's why we're really well suited for this. Bottom line is, I just want everybody to feel like this broadcast medium, this music, is for you. And in order to do that, we have to diversify the means that we're getting it out there.
Yeah. In closing, let me first say that most of these episodes will probably run about an hour. These overture episodes that you and I do with no guest interview should be about this long, maybe 30 minutes or so. But but in closing, just a couple credits. The music you hear at the beginning of each podcast does feature yours truly. I just went into my personal home studio and just started playing some stuff until something came out that I liked.
I loved it.
And it's followed by something produced by you, Scott.
Little guitar work in there. Little my guitar work.
And with some variations over time. We'll switch up the theme music to sort of match who we're talking to, what we're talking about. And I'm really excited about what's sure to be a really interesting ride. As I've said, there's been, a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of red tape, a lot of things to figure out, scheduling to get together. I'm going to be on the air, tonight at midnight. So I have to go home and get a few Z's in the meantime. But yeah, Scott, if I never say it again, I just have to say how much I appreciate your being a part of this project. How important it is to me to have you on board, and thanks for pushing all the buttons because I don't want to.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to contribute in whatever way that I can, and looking forward to how things are going to change in the next year.
This
see
is
a lot of change.
Triloquy, true and real stories from the fringes of classical music. We'll see you next time, featuring my good friend Marion Dooley.
Bye.